Hi. Martin's currently doing a podcast, so I thought while he was doing that I would do one too. So I've been doing Spinoza's Ethics on part 3, and I thought that I'd really continue with that. I started with the part 3, where are we? The preface and the definitions, and I did proposition 1, and I'm now on proposition 2. I've got several versions of the ethics. I've got the Curly, I've got the Elwes, I've got the Shirley, but I thought, as a little treat, I would read from the Debbie Butler version. You can't see it properly there, but anyway, translated by Debbie Butler. I translated this from the original Latin because I got so many different versions of the ethics from all the different people, and a lot of it is contextual. It's all in the era, it's all geared for the era in which it was translated. Anyway, so I've done exactly the same. I've created a version which translates for our modern era, and this is, for example, I'll show you the start of, where are we? There we go. This is the beginning of part 3, all very modern. Preface, as you can see, it's easy to read and very easy to understand and get to grips with. Okay, so there we are. This is where we are now. Proposition 1 and Proposition 2. So I'm going to be doing Proposition 2 because I've done Proposition 1. Right. So Proposition 2 says, neither can the body determine the mind to thinking, nor the mind determine the body to motion or rest, or to anything else, if anything else there is. So what does he mean by that? Well, he talks about modes, and we have 2 modes. There are many modes, but human beings have 2 modes. They have thought and extension. So thought is anything that goes on in your head, and extension is anything that goes on outside of your thinking. So everything that goes on outside your thinking is part of extension, is part of the body. That includes your emotions. Even though they may start in your head as a thought, they occur in your body as a sensation, a tension. So let's continue with this. Demonstration. All modes of thinking have God as their cause. Now remember that God is nature, God is the universe, God is everything that is, has been, and ever will be. Insofar as he is a thinking thing, and not insofar as he is explained through some other attribute. So what he's saying here is all modes of thinking have God as their cause. Okay, so the mode of thinking is one mode. Insofar as he is a thinking thing, insofar as that is a mode of thinking that is contained with the notion of God, or notion of nature, or notion of the universe, and not insofar as he is explained through some other attribute. Okay, so thought is contained in the mode of thinking. End of story. So he says, therefore, that which determines the mind to think is a mode of thinking, and not of extension. As I discussed before, you have thinking, you have thought, and you have extension. That is not the body. Exactly as I said initially. That was the first point. Next, the motion and rest of the body must arise from another body. So cause and effect. Let me carry on. which itself was also determined to motion or rest by another. So cause and effect, and then cause and effect of cause and effect of cause and effect of cause and effect, and it goes back ad infinitum. It's never ending. Cause and effect has no end to it. You know, we are here because the earth was formed. That is a cause of our being here. It's so obvious and so logical, but it's something that we find so hard to get our heads around. So, then he carries on. And in general, whatever arises in a body must arise from God, insofar as he is affected by some mode of extension. Again, he uses the word mode and extension. We have two modes, thought and extension. We don't have sonar, we don't have radar, we don't have all sorts of things. We have thought, we have extension. So he carries on. I'll read that again. He is affected by some mode of extension and not by some mode of thinking. So you cannot have something that is determined by thinking that happens. So, you know, you can think about your arm and you can think, oh, lift my arm. Lift my arm. Lift my arm. And my thought is saying, lift, lift. What's my body doing? Nothing. If my body cooperates with my thought, then lift. There we go. Lift. Thought and extension working in harmony. That is, it cannot arise from the mind, which is a mode of thinking. That was the second point. I think you should understand that by now. Therefore, neither can the body determine the mind, nor the mind the body, etc. I split it here because we've done the demonstration and the proposition for part 3, proposition 2, and we'll continue with the scholium in the next podcast, if you like. Meanwhile, Dee, if you would like to get a copy of my modern translation of Spinoza's Ethics, you can get it on Amazon. I don't think Amazon's being very friendly, so you may need the link. So I'll put the link at the bottom of this video. Anyway, here we go. That's Spinoza's Ethics. It took a long time to do, but it makes it so much easier to read because it's in modern words. You know, I struggle with the Shirley, with the Elwes and with the Curly, purely because they're all a little bit different and they're all perfectly right for their time, but they're not modern. Anyway, what I would say is please join me again for the scholium of Proposition 2, Part 3. Thank you.